Alrighty guys, another day, another strength, and we got another fitness fact or fiction today. This one is about the metabolism, right? So the claim is, I just have a slow metabolism, and that's how it is, right? The idea that metabolism is like entirely genetic, it is what it is, right? You just can't do anything about it, and that's it. So I'm calling it fiction on this bad boy, right? This is Star Wars, this is Harry Potter, this is Teen Titans, right? Sorry, Teen Titans fans, this is Samurai Jack. It's not real, it didn't happen. Total fiction here. What is metabolism, right? At the end of the day, it's very simple. It's really just how many calories you burn, especially through non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is known as NEAT, right? Which basically just means like stuff like fidgeting counts as NEAT, right? There's stuff like walking to, like if you go to the grocery store, instead of parking in the spot near the front of the store, parking in the back of the store. So it's like not exercise, but it's things that burn calories. I believe it also includes the thermic effect of the food that you eat. So if you eat a lot of junk food and processed food, it gets digested very quickly, and it doesn't cost a lot of calories to digest. But if you eat whole foods and a lot of like plants and fiber and protein especially, when you're breaking that down, it costs more energy to digest, so you're gonna burn calories while you're doing that, right? So what really causes slow metabolism? Well, there's two main things. There is the lack of NEAT, right? Which actually tends to follow something else, which we'll get into after. And the other thing is just lack of muscle mass, right? That's a big one. So if you don't have a lot of muscle mass, you're not gonna burn a lot of calories, plain and simple. Muscle is very metabolically active tissue. It burns a lot of calories just having it on your system. So it's kind of like, I use this financial analogy a lot. If you have a huge investment account with a whole bunch of money in there, you're generating a good bit of interest, right? If it's an interest-bearing stocks, for example, right? So that's your muscle mass. What accelerates these two things, the lack of muscle mass and the lack of NEAT? Well, two other things, right? So number one is aging. The older you get, generally the default is that there's sarcopenia, right? So you're just losing muscle mass to age if you don't do anything about it. So if you're aging and you're not training with weights, then you're just losing muscle mass. So your metabolism is slowing down naturally, right? Which is not genetic. Like, you're in control of that. You can train, you can gain muscle, and then you can stop the slowing of it and reverse it and actually increase your metabolism. And the other thing is calorie restriction, right? These tend to go together because I notice this a lot as people age, especially. It's true with younger people too, but what happens is as you age, so I talked about this in my like cardio makes you fat video, but since the default stage is you're losing muscle, you're also noticing that as that's happening, you're looking fatter even though you're not gaining weight, and that's because you're losing muscle, so it's being replaced with body fat, right? So you actually are getting fatter even though you're not gaining weight. So because of that, people start to restrict calories because they think they need to lose fat. But that actually kind of accelerates the muscle loss, right? Because they're not training and they're losing weight, which is a catabolic stimulus, so you're losing muscle. Then you start to look worse, and then your metabolism slows down more and more. And as your metabolism, or as your calories are restricted for a long period of time, your body reacts to that by lowering your NEAT, right? So you don't fidget as much, for example, because your body can tell that you're you're in a calorie restricted state, and so it doesn't want you to starve to death because your brain doesn't know that you live in the first world. It thinks that you're back in like the times of the cavemen. So that's generally what happens there. Another scenario, or another example rather, of this is like the cardio addict. So it's really the same thing. Like, this person's doing cardio in excessive amounts in the absence of strength training. So that's very catabolic. Eventually the body just says like, no thank you, right? And it's like, we need to slow everything down because basically it thinks you're running from predators all day and you're like about to run out of food and starve to death, so it shuts down all your like NEAT essentially, so you're fidgeting, right? It just kind of perpetuates itself. But yeah, the archetype for this, I would say, is the quote-unquote mature individual, right? Sarcopenia comes with aging, which I said, which slows your metabolic rate, so that's the huge factor there. And then the NEAT slowing down is more of an acute thing if you're in a calorie-restricted state for a long time. But those two things together, usually like in this vicious cycle where it's like the person will try to like diet for a long time, then all of a sudden they get so, they're eating so few calories that they can't possibly sustain it, but they aren't very lean because they don't have any muscle mass, and then they start like binging and they gain more fat on top of that, and then they repeat the process, and every time they like lose muscle, it's almost like, it's like the way that you want to bulk and cut, but in reverse. So like when you bulk, you're going to put on some fat and some muscle, and then you're going to diet down, you're going to lose just the fat. And then you're going to repeat that, put on some fat and some muscle, get a little heavier, diet down, lose just the fat. And the end result is that you're a lot leaner because you're a lot bigger as well. And this is the opposite of that. This is like you're losing weight, losing fat and muscle, then you're gaining just fat, then you're losing fat and muscle again, then you're gaining just fat. So yeah, not good, no bueno. But that's basically what happens if you kind of lead that lifestyle. So that's why it's very important to train for strength, train with weights, get some muscle mass. And that's really how your metabolism works. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Say something in the comments if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, goodbye.